I could see that the people needed help. See, Oakland needed a lot of help. They needed a lot of help. And Abdul Malik was not the one to help him. He was not the one to help him. He was trying to build up his self-esteem by being a pretty boy on campus. And he was trying to make sure that his mama was dark-skinned and his father was light-skinned, and his mama dominated her husband, you know what I mean, his father. And he didn't like that. He would say, what did he say all the time? You'll never, and he would be talking about women, he said, they'll never break me. And I was like, what man would go around saying, a girl, because I mean, you come up in the fast life and they used to manipulating and controlling women. So why would somebody say, you'll never break me? That's what he would tell him. Because that's what happened to his father. And that worked on him. And if he's listening right now, everybody out there knows this. By the time I finish, I'm going to talk about a lot of the psychological. Last week I talked about Marcus Garvey, this week I'm talking about some of the deep psychological things that have happened to black people.
Traumas.
That's what I got right there. They're traumatic. And they never got a chance to deal with them because they were involved in them. They couldn't help nobody else because they were too involved in their own, and to tell you the truth, they saw me as not an aid and assistance, but they saw me as some person that had some type of, Abdul Malik used to call me the Teflon Imam. In other words, everything bounced off. But he never considered me as, when they saw me, I'm talking about they, when I say they, I mean Oakland. They saw me as round features, no Negro characteristics. That was inferior. They look, I don't care what you tell them, they was down with that all the way. They school days Negroes. And I would look at them, as you could notice over the years, none of that was having no effect on me because I didn't hold it against them. The way they was and the sadness, it was sad. I'll give you an example. When Sister Zakiya, when their father died, now, that's why she liked me a lot, because I told her father was black, and she associated, he was a principal, she associated that with certain good characteristics. Like a guy will marry a woman that reminds him of his mother, and vice versa. It goes. So for a girl to say that guy, she don't say it in words. That guy reminds me of Dad. That's, you know what I mean. But all of that fits. Abdul Malik didn't remind her of his father. So let me continue. So therefore, I remember when her father died, Abdul Malik should have given them aid and assistance. Now, remember, although Sister Zakiya was married to Abdul Malik, there was a certain period when she would call me almost every day. And I would say, well, you're kind of married, and so, you know, but she still called. And she would be running life. So when my father died, I said, what are you guys doing? You know, like her sister, and her brother. She said, we all got into bed together and covered up, and we've been just crying. I said, damn, man, that's cold. You know, I said, that's, you know, they didn't know how to deal, they didn't know what to do. Because they didn't have any idea what to do. And Abdul Malik would take advantage of that. You know, I said, hey, man, we don't do that. Because he was impressed with Snoop Doggy Dogg bringing two women. I don't know if you ever saw it.
On the chain.
I never saw it, but I heard that.
I saw it.
You know, I'm not against niggas, but see, I don't know if I ever showed you the pictures of the women I hung around with. They used to call me Whole Hog and Hank. Because at that time, most of the pretty women lived out in East Oakland. And at that time, West Oakland was like Southeast is, you know, the people that couldn't get out and stuff. And so the better looking people would, you know, if you go out Maryland, the farther out you go, technically, it's not nice to say this, but the better people look, right? I mean, it's true. It's just the way it is. Ain't nothing we can do about it. Because the better looking people get better jobs. They marry better looking, what people call better looking people, right? So they have better looking offspring. There ain't nothing strange about that. That's the way it is.
Right.
You know, that's the way it is. Okay. So now, I was telling Abdul Malik, hey man, he would read Iceberg Slim and all that stuff, that crap. You know what I mean? And he would be trying to tell me about the game, and I would be trying to let him know that I am superior. You ask all the gangsters, I'm superior to. I had to be, you know, everybody know I was bigger, I had bigger ideas. I outlasted all of them. I outlasted everybody, although I made a transition to Islam. So he would come and try to give me the game back in the early 80s. So you gotta think like a pimp. He forgot he said that, because when I reminded him, he would say, I didn't say that. I said, okay, forget it then. You didn't say it. I said, I remember you said it in 83. I remember right here in the Masjid, there was no carpet in here, the floor was red, painted concrete at that time, and we was here. And that's what you said. You know, on and on. But anyway, today I'm trying to take us through the psychological traumas of being black and being involved in movement. And the people that the government handedly use, manipulate certain peoples because of their weaknesses. All of those weaknesses, like if we take Hashim Alauddin, his father was Japanese. He never had much contact with him, from what I know. You can see how he looks. He's Japanese, but he has, and remember I always talk about the curly-headed crew. He was one of them, but from a Japanese, not a white. And so we had a meeting at the Masjid, and all the sisters was there. Everything you can go and check, get a stamp, what I'm telling you. So, being the Imam, all the tenders, the nice young ladies from Berkeley and around, as they was going to Berkeley. Zakir was going to Berkeley, Waleed, all of them was going to Berkeley. It's nice, you know. And they were that generation. And so the girls that became Muslim were all, you know, where young girls, ooh, he got curly hair, he got, you know. So they liked Hashim. So I would pass it on to Hashim. And there was a meeting at the Masjid. You can check with all the sisters. Abdul Malik's wife and all of those people of that era, they were there. And the sisters remembered, you couldn't melt a black woman and pour. That's what he said. He said that. Da, 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 da. Don't think they're going to forget that. You know, the black women, you're going to say, you feel we're so low, you couldn't melt one. He proved it because he had 2 wives. All of them was Iranian and light Iranians, not them black hair and all that stuff, Iranians. No, indeed. Da, 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 da. Turkish looking girls. Because it's part of Turkestan. And it's not none of my business. But I'm telling you, he said that. That's why I almost blew up down there in Texas when he was teaching down there at Al-Ghazali School. Because he was teaching this black history and he was telling it almost like he was there and he was involved in it almost and stuff like that. So I had to get up because I'd go down there and speak, and I said, this guy is running me crazy, you know. And I told the leadership down there, this guy's the police, man. You know, the police. Black women, and asked him, and he's talking black, 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 black. And he said out of his mouth, you couldn't melt. Can you imagine where you melt butter? You couldn't melt or warm up syrup if a woman was, and pour, you couldn't pour on that. Can you imagine the sickness and the attitude? Now, I'd heard that before. I got some friends said the same thing. You know, dope dealers though and stuff like that, not conscious, they were like, man, you couldn't melt no black bitch and pour on me. And they said it with authority, and they meant it too. But here's a Muslim saying that with black consciousness and teach classes on Malcolm, you see virtually right now, you know, everywhere. And anyway, so you can imagine how I'm responding to the stuff I see nowadays. So Zakiya had a white mother and a black father. And as I said, when he died, all 3 of them got into bed together and covered themselves up and was crying. I said, damn. You know, it's tragic. You know what I mean? They done lost their pillar and their anchor, and Abdul Malik ain't got nothing to say because they're calling me, you know. And he's too busy trying to be slick. I'm in control. I ain't gonna have no, they ain't gonna do this to me. He's defensive. He can't have a good relationship with a woman because he can't share because I'm not gonna let her take my life over. Or what did he use? I'm not gonna let her not control, but something or other like that. You know, I'm not gonna let her do that to me because he's thinking about. These people are people that never mature because what happened to them as children, they never grow through it. That's why Abdul Malik is a grown man and he could never, you ain't gonna, you know, dominate me. This is the way he's looking at women. So he can never really share, right? I mean, and cooperate because he's on the defensive. Because what his father, and I told him, I said, your picture of your father that you have, and the picture I have of my father is different. And he was offended by it. And then when he got married to Sister Zakiya kept calling me all the time. And this was before I realized that she had really wanted, everybody else in the community, Sister Bahia knew it, everybody knew that she wanted to marry me. But I didn't know it till a few years later. So I was trying to explain to her that, I mean, when I was here, if I was out in the Masters and all that, she'd be calling. If we was up over on A Street, you know, she'd be calling, you know, for advice and what about the school and running over, we're going over this in the school. And I thought, okay, that's good. That's wonderful. Keep me up on what's going on. But Abdul Malik had told her I wouldn't marry her because she had loose ethics, but not after she became a Muslim. But now let's dissect some of the stuff that went on there. To verify what I'm saying is 2,000% true. At number one, it was a little, they were so light-skinned and orientated. It was a young boy in Zakia's class. He was 15 years old. And he had wavy hair, you know. I would think, you know, California is really mixed up with people. I would assume that his mother was kind of Hawaiian-like and somebody else. Because he was nice, light-skinned person with, you know, and now everybody found out that Sister Zakia was having sex with him. She was a teacher with one of her students, the stuff that you look at in the news all the time. You know, a teacher getting infatuated with a student, okay? And remember when I talk about LA and I talk about headquarters and talk about that, okay, As-Sabiqun, the outlet, the Sunni outlet at Masjid was over here on Overland, whatever it is. The Shia spot where I stayed all the time was right through this alley, a whole driveway. You could drive right through it and go, you could see it, As-Sabiqun. From over, if our apartment was right there, and we had the apartment first, it started the apartment upstairs and the apartment downstairs and the apartment over there. So it was 4 apartments, because you know that community thing. So our brothers out there in the Shia area, they got all those apartments and they was living there. It was a Shia community, you know, right there near UCLA. Right there, you know, near Venice Boulevard. Anyway, so that was something going on up in Oakland, and so Sister Zakia came down and was hanging out with the Sunnis over there. At the, you know, the Masjid is right over there, and I'm over here, a block away. You know, so I tell Abdul Malik, I said, yeah, she's down there and she's using that abused woman syndrome, you know, like his poor black, they had 2 kids there, you know, and, you know, that looked, and technically I'm trying to help him. But he's looking at it kind of stupid, like, you know. I mean, he knows that he knows I don't do that. I mean, everybody knows that I don't mess around. I didn't, if I can do 15 years celibate, I can do another 100 years. So anyway, different than them. They can't do that. They wouldn't even think about it. They don't think along those lines. But I had too much to do. You know, so that's what I do, because I'm busy. I don't have the time to, if you were married, you got to share, you got to give them, they have rights, you can't just So, uh, I was married to the community, and that helped get a lot of things done. But anyway, so, as I said, Zakia's mother would introduce her family and the oldest daughter. This is my daughter by a rape. So you know that this is insanity. You know what I mean? That type of insanity ran through the whole trend in Oakland. I used to refer to Oakland as the Masjid turns, you know, like they had a program as the world turns. It was always, we didn't have that here. I wasn't putting up with that stuff. The people just pack up and left, but it wasn't gonna be who's going with who. Every time I go out there, I'm doing marriage counseling and in the back of the masjid, and then finally the little cutie pie looks at me and says, well, what's gonna happen to me? I said, hell, I don't know. What's gonna, you know, that's what they, see, that stuff is true, that a lot of the stuff gonna be, the men gonna be taken out by girls. The hadith is true. You look in spy novels, you look in 007, that's what they do. But that ain't what happened with me. You know, I said, no, I ain't that. You know, I had time for all of that dumb stuff. You know, if I have sex, I have to marry you, I said, what the hell, I'm not gonna do all of that stuff, you know, for what, you know? Okay. I mentioned about the snapping of fingers, and I just mentioned as the masjid terms. So, in their families, all of them have these type of tragedies. In mine, I don't have any of that. I have a good, straight, old-time family. Mommy, daddy, brothers and sisters that know, there was just none of that dumb stuff that they have. None of them had that type of a setup. They come from a modern, abused background. They came from an immature background where the man has to defend himself, his manhood, from a woman, because her mother, which he loves, is dark-skinned and dominating her light-skinned husband, which is his father. I would have to be a scientist to unravel all of that stuff that was going on. It was beyond my ability.